Hey guys, and welcome to Gaming Resurrections, a show where we take our game systems to do mods, repairs, and to use new equipment to bring new life into them. Today we are going to be showing you how to properly clean a cartridge-based video games. So let's go ahead and get started on them. So cartridge-based video games is one that you see right here for the NES. They have sets of pins inside of them that they connect to a console so it can properly communicate with them and boot up that way. Though a thing to keep in mind though, the pins are always loose outside. Even if you store them on a shelf that they're loose like this, not like a cardboard box, they are susceptible to getting dust and dirt and whatever can possibly get on the pins here, obviously. So any signs of dirt or whatever that would get on the pins inside of here, you obviously do not want that to get into the connector inside of your console, because all the dirt that gets on these pins right here will also get on those connectors, and that will be more of a pain to clean out, and that will also make the console itself more unreliable to properly read games here. So there are a couple methods that you can use to clean cartridge-based video games, and the methods that I'll show you is same that can apply for all of them. It's a very simple process to do. I'll go over the tools that you need to use for them, and I do show two methods that you can use that will give you the best results for them. So let's go ahead and get started with that. And another thing to note here, do not blow into cartridges. I know we all did that back then. I am guilty of that as well back then when I was very young, but let's get that out of the way. Do not blow into cartridge games, because all of the bacteria from your spit is getting inside of the pins here, causing some, your bacteria and other disgusting stuff getting into the pins, that over time it will cause corrosion. So yeah, do not do that. I don't care if it's nostalgic to you, especially for the NES. That's when that became very popular, but do not do that. So other than that, let's get into showing you how you properly clean these games. Alright, so the three games we're going to be cleaning today, as you can see, Mario and Duck Hunt, probably the game that all of you have for the NES, because it is impossible to avoid. Classic Legend of Zelda, the original game here. Which, fun fact, this is the original copy that my grandmother had, that I am really happy that I still have this. It still works and all that too. And last but not least is Zelda 2, which I do believe it's not that bad of a game, despite what people say and all that. So the main tools that you're going to need for cleaning your games is as follows. You will need a standard game bit here. You can find these online through Amazon, eBay, what have you. Usually comes in a 2-pack. The small size one here is what we'll need to open up these cartridges. But yeah, I highly recommend you get these, especially if you go out to game conventions or just regular shops and all that. Check to make sure if you're going for authentic cartridges, which these are here, and I'll show you what that looks like, so you know what is authentic. Make sure you bring these with you, so that way you can check to make sure the game is authentic. If the seller says no, you can't open it, they won't open it for you, then just move on, ignore them, don't bother buying the game if again you're going for authentic games. Though you may also need a flathead though, because I'll show you why in a little bit here for one of these games here, and I'll explain to that when I get there. Then for your cleaning materials, you're going to need, if you're going to do it with using a liquid solution, I recommend isopropyl alcohol, straight up just isopropyl alcohol, at least 90-91%. Do not use rubbing alcohol, because that has, I think, what's called a glycerin in it, which if you use that, it's going to leave a film on the pins inside the cartridge, and you don't want that, of course. We just want to completely clean off the pins, so that way it makes a better connection inside the system so it doesn't have any issues. And then the next, and along with Q-tips as well, with alcohol, obviously. But the other thing is, and this is objectively the best thing to use, and that is an eraser. Yes, legit an eraser, and you'll see why in a little bit here. So we will go ahead and start out with Mario and Duck Hunt. So some NES cartridges, they will have either 5 or 3 screws like this one here. If I recall, I think like the 5-screw versions, those were like the very first few carts that they did that later on in the system's lifespan, they then moved to doing 3 screws for their carts. But yep, you'll just take your regular game bit here, take out all the screws. Alright, after that we can go ahead and open up the cartridge, and we'll see our board right here. Yes, it is that small, but when you flip it over, you'll see like all the chips here. You'll know it's an authentic game if they have, you know, big chips like this and some little capacitors right there as well. And even up in this corner here is normally where like a save battery will be, and you'll see that in the Zelda games because those games did support save. Usually a common giveaway if a game is fake is usually if there's like less chips than usual, or there's like a big black blob somewhere on the board here, then you'll know that is fake right there. But yeah, this is what at least an authentic Mario and Duck Hunt game should look like. So one thing to note here, a thing not just like the actual board I recommend cleaning, but also down in this section as well in cartridges, because as you recall, most people blew in the cartridges to like supposedly clean them and put them in the system, and as a result probably like, you know, 50 people got their bacteria inside of this part here. So highly recommend you clean that out there so all traces of that stuff is out as well, and you can avoid putting that into your system. And to do that, I recommend using, you know, isopropyl alcohol with Q-tips and clean out there. I also suggest a Windex as well, or Windolene, that's known in other countries as well, overseas at least. So yeah, that's what I suggest for like, you know, cleaning those, as well as like stuff in here if there's like any dust and what have you. So we'll get to that in a little bit. So yeah, I'll get you a closer shot of the cartridge here so you'll see like what it is that you're looking for when you're cleaning a game here. Alright, so you'll see on like the pins, the gold pins down here, there should be like some dirt and oxidation on the pins here. You even flip it over and you'll see that it should be the same. It should look like darker or like some form of oxidation as well. You will see like marks of it, of like signs, you know, that it was going into systems like throughout this cartridge's lifespan. But yeah, to use the eraser method, which I highly recommend, is the best way to get rid of it, and you also don't have to like have moisture inside the cartridges. But I will go over like, you know, the alcohol method. But you just take your eraser and just go across the pins just like this. Do be mindful of pressing down on the board, though. Be gentle with it, with like your other hand to like keep it down. I mean, so that way you don't damage any pins, capacitors, what have you. And I do recommend that you get a brush as well, so that way you can clean off the pins, which I'll grab here in a second. But yep, you'll just clean off any signs of the eraser, so that way that it should be like a perfectly clean set of pins here. Yeah, as soon as you get like all of the dark spots off the pins and all forms of, you know, dirt, oxidation, all that stuff is taken off, you'll know that you'll have a perfectly clean cartridge right here. And for the cartridges themselves, as I said, that I highly recommend that you clean this section, at least due to just a lot of people's bacteria is more than likely is in here due to all of us blowing in the cartridges. So just take, you know, a Q-tip with the isopropyl alcohol and just rub it across it and get all signs of dirt or like any stains that you see inside of here. So we can get it as clean as possible so it looks like a normal gray color inside of it. And like I said earlier, I also recommend a Windex in here in case you don't have access to isopropyl alcohol. That's another good method as well. You also take it on the dry side and pick up like any other marks that you may have missed as well. So yep, that's one side. You can see pretty disgusting overall that looks, but yeah, just do that a few times. You notice that there's still plenty of dirt inside of there, and try to get rid of all signs of dirt inside there. So once you're done cleaning both like the cartridges and the actual board itself with all the pins there, you can then just start putting it back together, obviously. Now, a thing to understand, there's no wrong way to like put in the cartridges, because it only goes in one way. That's because it's keyed here on this board here, meaning it fits in snug just like, let's see if I can do it correctly here. It fits in just like that here, because if you would flip this around, it doesn't fit in there properly at all. Even like the same thing here, do the same thing, it's just not going to fit at all. And a way that you can tell like the side that it goes onto, the correct one, it has the label on the front of it, and then when you flip it down so it's facing down, all of like the chips and the capacitors, it's facing down as well. So that's like one way to let you know to make sure that you're doing it right though. But then again, it is keyed for the plastic here, so there's no way that you can mess it up. Then when you're putting the back on it, there is like tabs right here on the front that you'll just like angle it down into the very top of the cartridge right here. So I'll show you what that's like. Just come in it at a slight angle there and then press it down. Then afterwards, just make sure like no cracks or like misaligned or anything, like it's just a perfect snug fit there once again. And then just take your game bit and put the screws back into place, and then this game is all set. Another thing you can do, if you see if there's any like, you know, dirt on the front of the cartridge, like right here I can see like a brown spot. A good way to like get rid of that stuff is, once again, isopropyl alcohol. Same thing if for like if there's like a Sharpie on the cartridge, you'll have to like repeatedly go at it with isopropyl alcohol. There is other methods you can do to like get a Sharpie because of like someone wrote their name on the cartridge, for example. That's one way that you can take them off there. If say like if there's like a sticker on the label, for example, you want to use Goo Gone. That is the best way to like get labels off of like the artwork or the labels of the actual cartridge here. And when you're doing the Goo Gone, make sure you let it sit for a while though. You don't want to just like pour it on there and then just start tearing off the label, because you will potentially rip the actual label on the cartridge here as well. So be mindful of that. Just have patience when you're doing that, as well as, you know, this whole process. You want to make sure like everything is cleaned as possible. Next we will move on to Legend of Zelda. Now if you recall what I said earlier, that I recommend having like a flat head to take the screws out of the cartridge. And now the reason I say that is, for some reason, this copy of Zelda has certain screws in here that is not the regular game bit screws for some reason. That they're basically, they have like an indent for a flat head and also like a circle in the center. I don't know if that's something that Legend of Zelda did specifically, or some copies of games were like that, but yeah, I don't know if you can tell specific with the camera there, but it does have an indent for like a flat head as well, but also like a circle in the center for some reason. So just so you guys are aware, in case, you know, you find a cartridge that has, you know, the screws are like that, just in case bring like a flathead with you, because you never know, because for some reason this game had it. And again, this is an authentic copy here that I'll show you in a second here, that for some reason this cartridge had screws like that. Right, screws are out of there, and I will show you that it is a legit cartridge here. You can see like there's like, you know, all the chips as well as, you know, the save battery right there. So yeah, it is an authentic copy here that, again, my grandmother had, you know, back in the mid-late 80s when she would have originally got this. But yeah, for some reason the screws were like that. So make sure you bring like a small flathead with you if you plan to, you know, go into places opening up cartridges, to make sure that they're authentic. Alright, here we are with that same copy of Legend of Zelda, that just like we did with Mario and Duck Hunt, we will just start cleaning the pins off here. Now you may notice with this one, you can clearly see there's a bit more dirt on the pins compared to the previous one there. Flipping it over, I think it's more noticeable with this one as well. That if there is like more dirt on there than usual, that's when I would suggest you get a Q-tip and isopropyl alcohol and then start, you know, going across it to see if you can get as much as the dirt off it as possible as well. Flip it around to the dry side and go and get what you can off of that. Then once you do that, then I suggest taking the eraser and then going across the pins here to clean off any signs of, oxidation or any dirt that you miss, so that way it all looks completely clean here. And then, like I said, have like a brush around with you to like clean off any of the shavings from the eraser, what have you. Just like a tiny like anti-static brush here, just go across the pins as well as like the board in case some got up in there. And just make sure like all signs of the eraser is taken off, because you don't want that stuff like staying inside the cartridge. Once again, once you're done cleaning the board or the pins, you can just start putting it together. That as before, here's the label side right here, face down. The board itself, the chips and battery, face down, because it's keyed, like I said, just fits into place. Then just put the bottom back on, angle it down from the top. Then it's back into place with no crevices coming out at all. Then just put the screws back on. Our last one here, Zelda 2, and this one, unlike the Zelda 1, does actually use the standard game bit here. So once again, we'll just flip it over and take out the screws. Alright, and looking at the board of Zelda 2, you can definitely see right there is some dirt marks right there that clearly needs to come off there, so we can, make sure it's a clean set of pins here so it won't cause any issues. So once again, let's take, especially for this here, since there's clearly like, dirt marks, that suggest something like this. When you take your isopropyl alcohol with Q-tip, clean across the pins here. Probably do like streaks across the ones that have like the dirt marks. Take the dry side and try to like clean that whole set off. And after that, you can then go with the eraser and get all signs of dirt and oxidation off the cartridge here. Alright, then once again, we have the front label side right there. Okay, and the chips goes face down on it. Okay, as always, it's always keyed inside of the cartridge for how it goes in there. Once it's snugged in, bottom cover, go at an angle at the top, set it down until it's all the way in. Then just take your screws and put it all back together for you. And after that, we are done. And that's that for how you clean your game cartridges for the NES. And it's a similar process, between, Super Nintendo, N64 games, and Genesis games, what have you. Same for Game Boy Advance games as well. It's just similar process as always. Just, make sure that, to recap, that you will need at least a game bit, isopropyl alcohol Q-tips, as well as an eraser. But also, just in case, at least as you saw in the case with Zelda 1, maybe in case of flathead, if the screws for some reason are not regular game bit screws. And another thing to note, if you do use isopropyl alcohol, I recommend that after you're done cleaning the games, let them sit for at least like 12 hours. Because, there is going to be moisture for coming from the pins and the actual plastic casing underneath as well. To make sure, none of that moisture, goes into your system. Let the game sit for at least 12 hours. So that way, all signs of moisture is out of there, so that way you don't risk having any of that in your system as well. So those are the methods that I suggest that you use for properly cleaning your cartridge-based video games. One other thing of note that I didn't go over, when it comes to N64 games, you do still need like a game bit screwdriver here on the back. But when you open them up, you will see that it has like this RF shield around them, and to get that off, it does use 2 Phillips screws right there. It's a very popular type of screw set that I'm sure all of you have like a proper screwdriver for. And another thing, when it comes to handheld systems like Game Boy Advance here, They all use like this, I don't know what you would call this, like a three-way star type of screw there. You can find the bit for this in like all screwdriver sets that you can get on Amazon, what have you. So yeah, that's the only exception for like these two types of games here. Like those are two different types of tools that you'll also need to like disassemble them and properly clean them. But yeah, that will do it for this video. Hopefully it was helpful for you guys. Do let me know down in the comments below of future videos that you would want to see in Gaming Resurrections, and do subscribe for more content like this in the future. Till then guys, I will see you next time.